We wait for the lights to come on and the second of the Moto2 race is here to get underway. On come the lights, wait for them to go out, and it's Pons that gets another super jump from pole position. He has got his race starts down to an absolute T. Nicky Tooley from second will go with him, as will Hector Garzo as well. A better start this time from the race winner last time out, because he'll settle into third place, yeah, just about, despite some late pressure coming in from Alessandro Zacconi. But for the third time today, it's Edgar Pons that takes the whole shot. It
is. Obviously, if you're confused by that, we did have that red flag, so we had 2 starts for race 1. But yeah, absolutely stunning start once again from Pons, and takes that whole shot with Tooley going with him once again. And Garzo saw him struggle a little bit more in those mixed conditions earlier, or well, fully wet at the time conditions earlier. But a good jump off the line this time, and right in that mix early on. And Zacconi as well. Good start from the Italian to slot into 4th.
Tooley tucked him behind, and you can see pushing hard early on the rear end of that Moto2 machine, kicking him from side to side as he tries to stay in touch with Edgar Pons. They need to try and disrupt his rhythm here, the number 57 at the front of the race, because if they let him just pick his markers and start to count the laps away, you would have to imagine he's going to break clear. But Tooley and Garzo on a move here to try and disrupt the championship leader as soon as they possibly can.
Yeah, most definitely. It's one of those days where you just got to try that move and just at least try and interrupt Pons's rhythm, even if you're not sure about it over race distance. You never know how that may affect him if he thinks he's got that rhythm to be able to pull away, and you can just get in his way and just try and make life a little bit harder, really.
Here's a good opportunity down the back straight for the first time. Tooley just on the edge of whether he's in the slipstream or not. It was a good drive out the final chicane from Edgar Pons, which means that Tooley or Garzo haven't been able to pull alongside him, but he's just, I thought he'd outbraked himself then, Edgar Pons, as Tooley started to close in and a look up the inside. No way through, so it's going to be the championship leader, Edgar Pons, your pole man, to lead them over the line for the first of 16 times, sorry, in this Moto2 race.
Yeah, all got a little bit messy there from those guys at the final corner, but Pons holds on, and Garzo then able to get past Tooley into turn 1 and holds it through turn 2 as well. Garzo's certainly looking pretty eager to get past him for some time. Have to see if the Spaniard can try and hunt down Pons now and get in his way.
Hector Garzo buoyed with confidence after that first race win of the season earlier in the day. Now has ticked off Nicky Tooley, who is just falling into the clutches of Alessandro Zacconi pretty quickly here as Nicky Tooley. There's nothing to get too concerned about just yet, as Garzo just is a little bit wide through turns number 7 there before they bomb down the hill towards turns 8 and 9. But I'm not sure if Tooley again has just got the pace to be able to go with the leading 2, because as soon as Garzo has moved past, he's quickly been able to edge out 3, 4, now 5 bike lengths over the Finn.
Yeah, he has, and interesting as well that it's kind of this way round for Tooley after he started second on the grid, because he was actually explaining after that taking that first ever E-pole in Moto E in Germany last weekend, that traditionally qualifying has been the place where he's struggled the most, putting that 1 lap together. So he managed to do that the best of the rest in qualifying here, but now seems to just be struggling a little bit in the first few laps of this race. But Zacconi definitely, yeah, looking a bit threatening behind the finish rider in 4th at the moment, but Garzo certainly not seeing Pons disappear into the distance just yet.
Just about holding on to the number 57 is Hector Garzo at the moment as they come into the final corner, and again Pons just for a second looks as if he's going to run on, and that's a mistake coming from Nicky Tooley. He did run on, he's gone wide, and that's allowed Zacconi to slip through into 3rd place. So it's, well, been a day to forget so far for Nicky Tooley. Still 14 laps remaining in this one for him to try and put some sort of a fight back together, but so far it has not been a day to remember for the Finn.
It has not, and I feel like I've brought him some serious bad luck this weekend. Did interview him when we got here on Saturday, and yeah, it's not been a good luck charm at all for the Finn so far. But Zacconi, they're not able to pull away just yet. We do have a yellow flag down in front of our commentary position somewhere. I can see the reflection of where it's being waved, so not exactly sure what that is. But anyway, yeah, so Garzo then tagged pretty close onto the back of Edgar Pons now. Certainly the championship leader hasn't been able to immediately pull away and stamp complete authority on this race, but there we go, that'll be why. So Sam Wilford then heading Where exactly is he there? Is he on the inside of pit lane? I think he is,
just on the inside of pit lane. So a wild card ride for Sam Wilford. It's a long way to go home for him from here in Alcañiz in Spain back to Britain before he then continues his British Championship, British Supersport Championship assault. Meanwhile, at the front of this one though, Garzo is looking pretty good here. He's all over the rear wheel of Edgar Pons. This race not going how we thought it was going to, especially given the fact that Pons has so far had it all his own way, and the fact that he's taken the whole shot from pole position, yet to have anybody slip under the inside of him. But Garzo is staying with him. Still a long way to go though, but so far so good from Hector Garzo as he pulls out the slipstream. Is this going to be the change of the lead? It looks like it will be, because his front wheel's just edged in front of him and he holds it into the final corner to hit the front for the first time.
Yeah, good stuff from Hector Garzo then. Manages to get past Pons, and you could see he's just that pressure, just all over the rear wheel of the number 57 for most of the latter half of that lap, but it looks like he's going to oh no, not quite. Garzo manages to hold on then into turn 1, but yeah, it was really a lot of pressure there. You could see a little bit of a wobble for Pons, and then eventually, yeah, someone has got past him despite that incredible record he's got so far this season, and of course that pole lap, but still got quite a long way to go in this race, so have to see now whether Garzo is able to stay with him or also pull out a gap.
55.2, the fastest lap of the race so far, coming from in Hector Garzo. Meanwhile, behind in the battle for third place, as we zoom in on it now, there is Nicky Tooley. As we thought he would do, just recollected his thoughts and starting to fight back through towards the leading duo. He's got the better of Zacconi now. In the battle for fifth place, it's Jari Montoya that currently leads that one. And in fact, he's managed to edge clear of teammate Tommaso Marcon, because Alessandro Zacconi is the next man in front of him. There's a fight to have the leading Italian bragging rights. It looks like it's going to rage on.
It's like a 2016 World Supersport race. These two guys obviously with a similar CV from back then, and a good fight so far. You can see Tooley just a little bit scrappier maybe here at Motorland. I think he does think the track is a pretty challenging one, and it is obviously a long track, pretty technical as well, and so far the Finn then able to just keep Zacconi at bay, but it looks like it's no mean feat for him, and I guess that step on the podium will be what he'll be aiming for now. But Garzo at the moment looking fairly comfortable, just a little bit ahead of Edgar Pons and able to hold on to that lead.
Yeah, Pons, although in a slipstream there, and he popped out for a second, thought against or better of making a move on the race leader at the moment. Quite possibly fairly happy just to sit in behind Garzo for a couple of laps, see where he's good, see where he's poor, and then start to form a bit of a plan. Or maybe not, and he's just going to squeeze his way through into turn number 1. So having followed him for a lap, maybe he feels that that's enough, and he's got the edge on Garzo in some areas to be able to break clear. So this will be interesting now. Surely the most pivotal point of the race so far, with Pons now back in front. Does he feel he's got the pace, or does he have the pace full stop to be able to break clear of Garzo?
I imagine Garzo will be aiming to hit back as soon as possible. But so fastest lap of the race at that time around then was Jari Montella, who was now tagged right onto the back of this podium battle led by Nicky Tooley, with Zacconi in a bit of a sandwich there now, and impressive stuff from Montella to close them down so quickly. But Garzo already again looking pretty threatening. He obviously is very eager to attack back. I wouldn't be too surprised to see it at the same place it was last time around at the end of the back straight.
Pace, unsurprisingly, quite a way away from what we saw in qualifying yesterday. 53.6, the fastest lap from Edgar Pons. Well, currently the fastest lap is a 55.2, with obviously the thunderstorms and the rain that we've had overnight washing away all of the rubber from the circuit, making it a little bit greasy, you would imagine, even still. And that's not allowing Pons just yet to get into the rhythm and starting to put together any sub 55 laps as he tries to break Garzo. But so far, Hector Garzo is just hanging on to the rear wheel of the championship leader.
He is indeed. You can see Zacconi again closing in on the back wheel of Nicky Tooley, although the Finnish rider gets a little bit of a better exit down the back straight. It'll be interesting to see what's happening at the front down here, because yeah, Hector Garzo closing in again, but this time not quite close enough to make a move. So I have to see maybe into turn 1 Garzo might get another opportunity next time around, but Pons so far at least not able to break away too much, and this podium battle between these three guys is a pretty good one so far, with Zacconi now looking pretty eager to try and get past Tooley.
As they come across the line for the 5th time, making it 8 laps to go. Garzo again buried into the rear wheel of Edgar Pons as they flick left into the opening corner. In terms of the race pace, 0.2 of a second. Pons was quicker on that last lap from Garzo. Not that really you can tell. Meanwhile, it's a 1.7 second differential between the fight for 1st and 2nd and the final podium place, with Nicky Tooley leading that one at the moment. Further back, Tommaso Marcon just out of contention for a top 5. Will we see him in the back of the picture? No, it looks as if those guys battling for 3rd, 4th and 5th have edged well clear of him now. But obviously our focus is on these guys. In the battle for 1st place, Edgar Pons versus Hector Garzo.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Moto2 European Championship classic, this one. But Garzo certainly is not letting him get away at all at the moment. And again, looking like he really wants to pile on that pressure and looking to make a move soon. But you can see there's not much difference in their lap times, although Pons did have a couple of tenths. Obviously, Garzo has eaten that away again this time around.
Ring to turns number 12 and 13 here as they flick left and then right. Over the watchful eye of the Aragon wall, there it is. Hard on the brakes once more into the 2nd chicane before we then motor on down the 1.2 kilometre back straight. Garzo again in contention here. He's going to tuck him behind to number 57. Will he get an opportunity to possibly drag past him? He's closing at the moment and it looks as if he is going to pull out and maybe make a move. Is he just popping out from behind the bubble? He doesn't make a move on this occasion, but he is just applying the pressure there on Edgar Pons. I'm sure Pons will be well aware of the fact that he's still there, not only getting his pit board of +0 as he comes across the line now, but he'll have a squealing Honda CBR 600 engine just inches away from him. And Garzo at every opportunity just trying to show his front wheel to the number 57 as they now make it 10 laps to go here in Aragon. And at the moment it looks as if we're going to be treated to a bit of a ding-dong between these two as they go into the latter stages.
Yeah, definitely hope so. They look fairly evenly matched so far. I think it must be a pretty good sign that Garzo's not desperately immediately tried to hit back. Obviously at this stage feeling like he can very much stay with Edgar Pons in the lead. But yeah, nothing to choose between them. Almost one solid flash of colour, those guys. And it's as you were in the battle for 3rd as well, but still those gaps pretty small between Tooley, Zacconi and Montella. And again, Garzo just having a look at the inside but not quite going for it yet. So definitely making sure that yeah, that nice Honda scream is nice and audible for the man that he's hunting down.
He had a look over his left-hand shoulder, did Edgar Pons, just before they anchored on the brakes for turn number 8. But as he looked left, Garzo pulled to his right-hand side and he didn't get a good look at him at all. But he will know that he's there as we now edge towards turn number 12. Garzo again just stalking him at the moment. It is a bit of a chess match in these middle laps of this 16-lap event. Meanwhile, the battle for 3rd behind still raging on, but it's Tooley that's holding off Zacconi pretty well so far.
Yeah, it seemed to be a little bit less messy from the Finn over the last few laps. Just had a couple of little issues earlier on, but at the moment able to just stay ahead of Zacconi, although the Italian's still fairly threatening there in 4th place, as is Garzo, still absolutely tagged onto that rear wheel of that Baiko machine ahead of him. So what do you think? Do you think we're going to get a move again soon, or do you think he's just going to sit there and pile on the pressure?
He looks fairly comfortable at the moment, despite there being a piece of string holding them together, and a small one at that as well. There's nothing to separate them. Meanwhile, the battle for 3rd, I thought for a moment Zacconi was having a look up the inside, but no way through. Tooley does get sideways on his way into turn number 1. Really anchors on the brakes, and it's difficult for anyone to make a move back past. So 9 laps now to go. They're ticking away fairly quickly here in Aragon, with these two setting the pace. They are edging further and further clear now of that battle for 3rd place. Their pace about 0.4 of a second a lap quicker than what Tooley, Zacconi and Monte behind are able to put together. So now in towards turn number 8. Again, just trying to show his front wheel is Hector Garzo. As Nicky Tooley's teammate Peter Biesakowski just rolls down pit lane in front of us. He was, of course, involved in the crash that had the opening race of the day red flagged. That's Cedric Tangre, another one of the riders to come down pit lane as well. So quite possibly Biesakowski just feeling those effects of an off in race number 1. Meanwhile, he's had a mistake from Pons, possibly the first indication of one, just ever so slightly wide into turn 12. Allows Garzo to pull alongside him, but no way through on the brakes into turn 14. But again, he's a bit wide again. This isn't the uber consistent Edgar Pons that we've been used to seeing over recent weeks, where he's managed to put together a string of 3 consecutive wins. And this is possibly the time Hector Garzo feels is right to pounce after a couple of minor errors. He's going to move his way to the front of the race. And again, Pons is just a little bit wide there. He's going to make it for the second apex here on the run through turn number 17, the final corner. But Garzo is now back at the front in this chess match in this European Moto2 race.
He is, and it was almost as though Pons let him through there. Took a really, really long look over his shoulder and almost seemed to just watch Garzo pulling alongside him. So pretty interesting dynamics there in, like you say, that chess match at the front. And a bit of heartbreak then for our morning hero of Daniel Kazmaidin, just sliding out of the race. So, yeah, sad times for the Malaysian, but I'm sure his overriding memory of the day will be that podium, and it seems like ride it up and okay immediately, so that's good stuff for him, and he'll be able to take that confidence from that podium into summer break at least. But hopefully one of these guys will be feeling pretty happy after getting the podium as well, but there's still nothing to choose between them as Montella just goes a little bit wide there. And yeah, Zacconi certainly seems to be stalking Thule and matching him corner by corner, but Garzo at the front, it looked like he just had a little bit of an advantage last time we saw those two, so it'll be interesting to see if if Hector Garzo is trying to do the double in 2 very different sets of conditions here at Motorland, and despite that dominant performance from Pons in qualifying.
0.2 of a second he managed to edge out in the first sector. Pons has claimed some of that back as they went through sector 2. Meanwhile, in this fight for third place, Zacconi and Thule just edging clear, should I say, of Montoya now. It looks as though it's going to be another 4-wheeler for the final podium spot. But yeah, that's a comfortable gap for Garzo. It's certainly the biggest advantage we've seen at the front of the race so far. Pons is going to cut it in half after getting a good slipstream down the back straight. Meanwhile, behind them, no way through just yet for Zacconi as he continues to apply pressure on Nicky Thule as the battle for the final podium spot rages on. But at the front of the race, he's back with him now, is Edgar Pons, as they flash past our commentary position. He's going to pull alongside him, but no way through on this occasion. And this is a real game of chess, with the pair of them not wanting to give too much away at the moment. A high-speed game of chess, should we say. Of course, it's a little bit more adrenaline-filled in the classic game.
It is indeed. But yeah, and Pons now seems to be doing the Garzo trick of a few laps ago, of just sitting there and just looking to the inside a few times when there's just that little bit of possibility, but just content to sit there and apply that pressure and see how Hector Garzo can deal with it. So far, again, you can see just a single tenth between them that last lap around, but Pons did manage to pull back some of that deficit, and yeah, they're almost side by side over the line. Looked like maybe the number 57 was going to go for a move into turn 1, but no, content to sit there in second and let Hector Garzo do the bulk of the work here at the front. And it looks like they're already coming up on another rider then as well, so a little bit of an extra spice in the mix there.
Yeah, the first back marker to come across looks like it's going to be Philippe Legallo, the number 66 rider, as they're now edging towards turn number 12 with Garzo still leading. Legallo will get out of the way, sees the yellow flags and moves over to allow the 2 race leaders to continue their fight at the front.
Yeah, good stuff. At least that didn't interrupt this battle too much, but Pons again absolutely tagged onto the back wheel of Hector Garzo then as we head down the back straight once again. Number 4 tucked in at the front, but yeah, it's pretty comfortable if it wasn't the last lap, the kind of maneuver that he was expecting, but Garzo's certainly not able to pull away at the moment.
So those are the championship standings before the race got underway. So 43 points the difference between these men in first and second place, currently in favour of the number 57. There's a bit of a shake of the head there from Pons. Is he getting slightly frustrated? I'm not sure, but he's made the move anyway. Garzo maybe trying to edge back past as Pons runs ever so slightly wide, but no way through. So Pons now back at the front of the race. Is that shake of the head possibly indicating that he's not comfortable on the bike at the moment. We'll have to wait and see, but he's back out front. Can he now break clear? Garza will be hoping not, as he continues to stick with him, and that piece of elastic that's separating the two now switches from one way to the other. A huge slide from Garza. We saw him do that in the Moto E class at the Saxon Ring last week, getting his Moto E machine sideways on a number of occasions. Well, he's proven he can do it on a Moto2 bike as well, leaving a huge black line down as then Pons at the front of the race backs his way into turn 8.
Yeah, it's definitely not too slow at the front with these guys. There's a fair amount of effort going into this, as we said, high-octane chess match. But does this look like the biggest gap we've seen so far? Is this when Pons is going to pull the pin? Not sure about... Oh, thought it was getting a little bit of a wobble there, but not too bad. But yeah, not sure if Hector Garza is going to be able to keep this up for another 5 laps after this one, given now it looks like Pons is really starting to put the hammer down. He's pushing now, his Pons, into his sideways everywhere. The legs coming out. He's really trying to put the hammer down, as you say, Fran, and break clear. It's the fastest second sector of the race so far, and the fastest third sector of the race as well. It's going to be the fastest lap of the race, and it looks like it's going to be this lap that will break Hector Garza. The super consistent Edgar Pons, again biding his time on this one. He's been had to work slightly harder for it than we've seen in previous races, but now as it got down to crunch time with just 5 laps remaining, he has put in the fastest lap of the race, and he's now edged 0.6 of a second clear over Hector Garza. Yeah, so suddenly just pulling the pin then is Pons, and it looks like Garza fairly soon is going to have to wave that white flag and just bring it home in a solid and nevertheless still very much impressive second place to make it a first and a second for his day's work, which is more points than Pons overall, so you know, nothing to sniff at all. But yeah, it looks like the hammer is well and truly down now for our championship leader, with, like you said, that fastest lap of the race and able to just pull out that advantage, which of course now just needs to stay fairly consistent and keep it somewhere in that kind of you know, 0.6 to a second kind of range to just take the pressure off a little bit of leading this race. Nodding ahead from his squad, the AGR Calex team on pit lane. They're fairly happy with what they're seeing at the moment, because that advantage is now over a second as they've just flicked through sector 2. That previous lap from Edgar Pons, 0.8 of a second quicker than Hector Garza. This is what we've seen so often this year from Pons. As we said, a little bit later, and he's had to work a little bit harder than what he did in Valencia in Barcelona, but the end result at the moment looks as if it's going to be the same, with the number 57 parked in Parc Fermé in front of the P1 position. Still plenty can happen with 4.5 laps remaining, but at the moment it looks as if Edgar Pons is on his way towards a 4th win of the season. Yeah, you can see in the background as well, Nicky Tooley just seems to have been able to break a little bit clear of that battle with Montella and Zacconi, and at the moment the Finnish rider in a little bit more of a secure 3rd place. So 4 more laps after this one is complete, which it is now as Edgar Pons crosses the line. So have to see if the likes of Montella and Zacconi can just up the ante a little bit in the final stages here, but Tooley just able to give himself a little bit of breathing space after really having Zacconi tagged onto his back wheel for quite some time in this race and having to deal with the pressure from the Italian. Still a strong effort from Hector Garza to walk away from today with a 1st and 2nd place, as he's looking likely at the moment, is a fair old haul. 45 points, the best of anybody in this championship. A good day's work for the Moto E rider as he then sets his next focus on to the Red Bull Ring in about 3 weeks' time for 2nd round of that championship. Yep, they will be back on track at Austria, as will Nicky Tooley as well, and Matteo Ferrari as well, one of the other guys in the field, currently in 6th. So behind this 3-way battle to complete the podium is Ferrari. So it should be another good race, I think, there. And these Moto2 guys will again be out to prove some points. Nicky Tooley, the championship leader there, obviously, thanks to that history-making 1st ever win in the Saxon Ring. He's bouncing back at the moment from disappointment in the wet weather in race 1. 9th he came across the line. 3 points he lost
to Edgar Pons out front, and he's going to lose even more points here, but nevertheless it's another opportunity for him to stand on the podium.
It is, yeah, and obviously it's nothing to be sniffed at, a podium here in the Moto2 European Championship, because Edgar Pons does seem to have everyone's measure at the moment, and Thule, of course, a race winner, first time out in this championship in Estoril. And yeah, obviously a lot of that deficit did come from that incident that we said in Valencia. We talked about it a lot in race 1 when he went down through no fault of his own after some oil was on the track. So bit of a difficult thing to take, but Thule today, a podium and managing to hold off the likes of charging Zacconi and Montella behind him is a pretty good day's work, obviously in a weekend and a track that's not been the best for him.
He's up the pace now, so impressive as Edgar Pons. He was sat behind Garzo, just watching, seeing where he could start to mount an attack, but then as soon as he hit the front, bang, he pulled the pin, and he's been 0.8 of a second quicker on each of the last 3 laps to mean that his advantage now 2.3 seconds. With now just 2.5 laps remaining of the second Moto2 race here in Aragon. The battle for the final podium place looks to be a little bit closer, but at the moment, Thule looks fairly comfortable there in 3rd place. He's got half a second over Montoya, who's still fighting away in 4th place, but he's got company of his own in the form of Alessandro Zacconi. And Hector Garzo just has to be careful as well. 2.5 seconds is his advantage over Thule. But one slight mistake from him, as we saw in race 1, will allow him to fall into the clutches of Thule, and then suddenly we will have a fight on our hands for the final podium places. But at the moment, he's matching the pace of the guys behind him, despite losing touch with Edgar Pons at the front of the race.
Yeah, that gap between Garzo and this fight for 3rd, currently led by Thule, is actually now smaller than the gap between Garzo and Pons for the lead. So that really shows how much Pons has suddenly just upped his game a little bit and pulled that pin, like we said, and has managed to escape. You can see visually on the back straight, it's almost the same, but the number 57 really has got that hammer down now, and it looks like Montella as well has been able to make a few inroads on Nicky Thule, who's massively sideways again, absolutely spectacular. But yeah, the number 55 now looking fairly threatening behind the finish rider as we come round to start the penultimate lap of the race. It looks like Thule might be under attack into turn 1.
Yari Montoya is alongside him, and now we see on the TV pictures he is past him. So Montoya making his move for a podium finish in the latter stages of this one. 2 laps to go, and Thule's got it all to do now. It will be a disaster day if he walks away from Aragon without even finishing on the podium, despite starting both races from 2nd on the grid. But he's got a real fight on his hands now with Montoya edging past.
He has indeed, and of course don't want to lose any more ground to Zacconi behind him, so got to be careful he doesn't let the 2nd Italian in this mix into play either. But Montella struck fairly quickly there after he'd hunted Thule down, but with only another whole lap after this one, yeah, it's pretty tense for Nicky Thule whether he can at least take a podium home from a bit of a more difficult weekend here at Motorland.
Meanwhile, there is Hector Garzo in 2nd place. Looks fairly comfortable for him, but Montoya is just edging clear, is he, at the moment? That is a good run through over the top of the hill, through turns 11 there. Hard on the brakes into turns 12 in front of the wall here at Aragon. And I tell you what, Montoya is looking good here. Is he just starting to break clear of the attention of Nicky Thule in the latter stages of this one? But hard on the brakes as Thule's looks to close in once more. He has to stay within touching distance here so he can get a good drag down the back straight. He is right in alongside the rear wheel of the number 55. He's going to close in, then pull alongside the number 55. Will he make his move here before we enter the final lap? He does it before he even anchors on the brakes into turns 15 and then 16. Good work from Thule, but he's run wide and it allows Montoya to slip back past him. Oh, this is going to be a real fight for 3rd place on the final lap. Meanwhile, out front, Edgar Pons starts the final lap. 3 seconds is his advantage over Hector Garzo, who himself has 2.5 seconds over Montoya. But we will be focusing quite rightly on this fight for 3rd place. It's Montoya that has it at the moment. Thule there in 4th, and Zacconi settled into 5th at the moment, just off the back of Tooley, but he's ready and waiting to pick up the pieces when these two start to fight.
Yeah, he definitely looks a little bit threatening, does Zacconi there, just patiently waiting at the moment, but the Italian can be as aggressive as anyone. But Tooley then needs to find a way through to leave MotorLand Aragón with a podium and at least try and stem the flow of points that he's so far seen disappear to Edgar Pons today. But Montella looking fairly solid so far on this lap.
It's a good final lap coming from Montella so far, holding off the pressure that's coming his way from Nicky Tooley. The only disappointment or frustration for Montella is that he has got that 1.2 kilometre back straight to try and contend with, and last time around the dress rehearsal, big moment for Zacconi. That's surely put an end to his fight for 3rd place. Just as he came over the crest of the wave, the bike getting unsettled and spitting him from side to side. Did well to hold on to it, but he's lost touching distance from the fight for 3rd place now. It's going to come down to between Jari Montella and Nicky Tooley. We're into the final chicane as they've both gone wide. It's a lunge up the inside from Nicky Tooley there as he's reclaimed 3rd place. That has allowed Montella to come back into the fight, as has Zacconi as well. But Tooley looks to have got it sewn up for 3rd place. Surely that advantage won't be eaten away as they go down the back straight. Meanwhile, back at the front, here is the race winner. 6th place, damage limitation early one, but he's back to his perfect best, is Edgar Pons. He moves further clear in control of the European Moto2 Championship. Race win number 4 for Edgar Pons. 2nd to Hector Garzo, and Tooley on the last lap just about holds off the Italian fight from Zacconi and Montella to come away from Aragon with at least a podium finish. But it's all about that man, Edgar Pons, again, so dominant. Now here are the results. Edgar Pons 2.8 seconds clear in the end of Hector Garzo. Nicky Tooley held off a late charge from Alessandro Zacconi to take the final podium place, and Jari Montella, after a big moment on the final lap, will, you would imagine, be fairly pleased to take home 5th. Tommaso Marcon there in 6th, and Anapab Sarmoon ended 10th, just ahead of the Malaysian duo of Ramdan Rosley and Adam Noureddin. Matthias Magel taking the final points just behind Julian Meyer. Joan Diaz there, he's the winner of the Stock 600 race, comfortably clear of Alessandro Zetti. Final finishers: Nazirul Bin Hamanid, Takeshi Suzuka, Peter Pavalainen and Leon August, with all 4 of those final finishes as part of the Super Stock 600 class running Yamaha R6s. And then Joan Diaz will take the Super Stock 600 win aboard his Yamaha R6. Good run from him in the Stock 600 class. 3rd going away of Nicky Tooley. Not the biggest smile in the world from the Finn, but it's another podium finish. A 4th for the season, exactly the same as it is for this man. 1st in the opening race, now 2nd today. A great day's work for Hector Garzo. But after taking it easy in the wet conditions, he wasn't too comfortable then, but he was more than comfortable in the dry. A 4th win of the season for Edgar Pons.